Hello, Ian here from Dark Place Workshop. Welcome back to another video. This one we're painting Luna on the Thestral. Okay, the Thestral. I didn't paint Luna as part of this tutorial because it's been done before with the Luna lion hat version, so it's exactly the same colours I used for that. The Thestral, on the other hand, I struggled initially with I thought it was going to be a dark sea blue colour, but then I thought I'd try and revert to what I know, and what I do know is black without black. So that said, Shades of Doom set from scale 75, so that helped a lot eventually. So anyway, let's get on with it. Hope you enjoy it. Cheers. Okay, here we go with the Thestral. Now, caveat, please bear with me on the colour of the body. I was looking at the box art and you can obviously see it's a dark bluey green, and then it's highlighted with like a turquoise kind of colour, and then a really light kind of green. I'm just looking at some colours to the side here that I picked out earlier, and you know it's a mixture between those two to get the highlight colour. Now, which would work well with a dark sea blue, but the wings, I always like doing leather type wings, so I'm using scale 75's black leather. Now, it's a superb colour with a little bit of purple in it, but it doesn't really go with the blue-green at the moment, so bear with me. I'm going to do the wings first because I know what I'm doing with the wings. I'm going to mix these two to get a highlight mottled colour. I need to shade it first though, and I got a tip off my good friend Terry Cowell, used to be involved with the Figure Painter magazine guys, and he suggested adding a bit of black green to the black leather because there's a lot of red in it. You know, they should, you know, that the green should darken reds, as you know, it's a nice bit of colour theory for you if you don't know. You know, if you do mix a green into a red, the red becomes darker. So. So I'm going to try shading it first. I'm going to be using the airbrush, and I'm just going to shade around the spine parts of the wing and the underside, and then we'll go over the top then with black leather in the centre sort of triangle on the raised areas, and then we'll start highlighting it with a 50-50 with walnut, and if we need to go to the sandalwood, you know, we'll see how it goes, but there's a nice, you know, it's a nice pinky grey colour, so it goes well with the black leather. This is really purple, it's not black at all. Anyway, enough of the ramble. We'll get into sorting the wings out, and as I say, we'll go from there. If I need to change the colour on the body, we will, but we'll come to that when we come to it. I'm not entirely sure if the camera's going to pick this up, but we got the black leather there. I'll put a little drop of the dark green there, and I'll try and get to an angle where you can actually see it. I'm not sure you're going to see it, to be honest. Just to show you how much it darkens. So it's not quite 50-50. And I think we've got a nice shade colour there, so I'm going to thin it down and add it to the airbrush, and we'll get on with it. Okay, here we go. So as I say, we're just going to apply it to the area around the spines. It's slightly darker, so I'm happy with that. I'll carry on with the rest of it, and we'll come back to the next stage. So while that's drying, I'm going to mix the next colour. So we've got black leather, a little bit of walnut. It's just to lighten the black leather slightly, he says. Yeah, that should do. It's like a desaturated purple now. Load that up and we'll apply that like a layer, but we'll try and blend the edges with the airbrush. Okay, here we go. So staying with the raised areas. It's only going to be like a subtle difference. I'm not even sure if the camera's going to pick it up. I'm probably thinking it won't pick it up, but I'll keep going anyway. So basically all I'm doing is staying within the spine area with this layer. Just to get a little bit of definition towards the edge of each section. That's way too much. Okay. So just get a wet brush. I'm okay with leaving that bit in the middle, but it's so thin, it's not going to make a great amount of difference, but I can just push it into the middle of the section. That should be okay. And we'll carry on. Alright, we'll come back at the next stage, I think. Just there now to dry that part. And I think I can afford to go a little bit lighter on this colour, so that'll be the next thing we do. So a couple of passes done with that layer now. I'm going to go in with a highlight, so slightly more walnut brown in the mix, and I don't know whether you can see there is a slight change in tone. That's all I'm after. Let's go with a highlight now. Just here and there. Sticking to where it appears to be more raised than any other part. And I'm just going to leave it there. Right, so that's dried nicely. The next stage is the Mottled Effect. Now I'm using this stencil. I'll put a link in the video below. I'm not entirely sure where it's from now. It might be Anarchy or something like that, I'm not sure. But I'm just going to apply that to the wing, and then use this lighter colour then to get the mottled effect. So that's mostly, I'd say, about 2 parts sandalwood to 1 part walnut. And I'm just going to add that to the airbrush now. So we've got a stencil. I'm not bothered about that part in there. What I want is this raised part here, so I'll just hold the stencil in place and we'll do one section at a time. So some sections will be better than others, but you get the idea. So I'm going to carry on with the rest of the beastie and we'll come back for the next stage. Okay, the good thing about such a small hold stencil is you can just tidy up other bits by just placing that over the top there. Let's hold that into position and just apply another coat over the top. It's come out quite good actually, so I'm quite happy with that. So I'm going to do the same for the underside now, and we'll come back when it's ready. Okay, so the next stage is to put another shadow in, and I'm using Payne's Grey. It's a bluey grey ink. It's very, very thin. I'd say about not even a drop of ink to about 8 drops of thinner. And I'm just going to have a play to get some shadows going. And wherever I can find a little crease in the wing or along the edge of a spine, I'm going to put this in. It may look really dark on the camera, but it will dry quite nicely, hopefully. Now I'll turn the pressure right down. And the good thing about using super thin ink like this is you can do a second pass if you need it. So any areas that are sloping down the way I'm going to apply just along the edges of it, and any little dents in the skin part of the wing, I'll put some in there as well. And this Payne's Grey should bring us back towards the dark sea blue of the body. Should. It should make a little bit of a difference at least. There's such a stark contrast on it now. We've done one pass on the underside. I can afford to go a bit darker on this side because, you know, obviously it's not facing up towards the light. wait to see how that dries before we go any further. I might put a little bit more on here just to reinforce that spine. But I think it should be okay. But we'll wait anyway, I'll be good, I'll wait. Actually, while I'm waiting for that to dry, I'm going to apply the same Payne's Grey to the underside of the Thestral. Let's get a bit of shadow going. This is so thin, it might just make a little bit of difference, but every little helps. Whoops. That wasn't good, was it? Okay. Okay, so I'm happy with the wings. So we're going to move on to the body now. And in order to protect the wings, I'm going to use cling film. And luckily enough, it's quite an easy fit. That's well protected. I'll do the other one off camera. So now I've got a rough idea what I want to do with the body. So I'm going to use the old Shades of Doom set, one of my favourites. And whether we'll use all 4 of them, I'm not sure, but this is my black without black recipe. So we got the Necro Grey, Despair Green, Rie Grey, Miskatonic Grey. I'm going to start off with the mid-tone-ish Despair Green, and I'll just use the airbrush to apply that because it's a lot quicker. And there's no need to worry about getting any on the wings, which is good. In my head, it's a good idea to use this recipe because I was looking at the box art and it's really light and it just doesn't make sense. Yeah, they're so dark in the films. Why are they so light on the box art? So we're going to go dark with the stark highlights. So I'll leave that dry and we'll give it another coat and we'll come back to the next stage. So for the next coat I've got the Rie Grey and I've added 1 drop, well there's about 8 drops of this Rie Grey and 1 drop of Miskatonic just to tone it down a little bit, and we're going for all the raised areas now. So it's going to be a head. And along the spine. Don't worry about the shadows at the moment because we'll be putting them back in anyway. I'm going to go across the top half of the ribs. Oh, sorry, the top part of the leg there. Collarbones, I suppose, or shoulders. Feet, knee, and the tail. Any part that you can see while you're looking down that way at it, we're going to hit with the airbrush. Just go across the top of those ribs again. Okay, we'll leave that dry. I'm going to go over this quickly with a lighter tone. So it's about 50-50 the Rio Grey and the Miskatonic. And I'm just going to go along the raised areas now. So I've got a 50-50 mix of the Rio Grey and Miskatonic Grey, and we're just going to go over the absolute raised areas. So it's top of the head here, along the spine, and along the top part that's showing there of the tail. The thighs, as you would think of thighs, the shoulder pointy bits, and the feet, and the hips. And I think that's it for the airbrush. Okay, so now it's the tedious part where we re-establish all the shadows now. So I'm using the Necro Grey, and I've put a bit of flow improver in there, and I've watered it down, and I'm just applying it like you would a wash to the recesses of each of the ribs. And any area that should be in shadow, like up there, but I'm pushing it up into the fold there. Can pick out the highlights again if we need to. There's nothing wrong with using something like Null Nile, but I'd suggest you put a bit of medium in there just to tone down the intensity, because you don't want it too dark. So I'm going to carry on. That's all I'm doing, is just pushing it into the creases and lining, and we'll come back for the next stage. Okay, so I'm going to go for a second pass now on the Necro Grey, but this time when I'm applying it, because we started up there last time, to reinforce the shadows down here, I'm going to start about halfway down. And you won't have to feather it because it's thin and it's got flow improver in it. It shouldn't really need feathering out, it should blend itself. And then I'm just going to apply it to any other place now that I think I'll need it. It'll be darker than the rest, so it's under these joints, under the leg there, in there. Anywhere where the light won't hit it as well, so you're talking about under here, along the join there. You're not going to see it, but it does emphasize the shadow more. And I'll do in between the vertebrae on the tail as well. Doesn't have to be precise. So I think I might need a dry brush over the top of this. See how I'm changing the angle of the model to fit the brush. I'm leaving the brush so I can do the stroke in the same position. I'm just altering the angle of the tail so it fits in with the brush stroke. Just speeds things up a lot more. Let's do the other side. So remember, halfway down. Same again on the neck, I'll start from there and come down. Go around our joint there. So, considering we've only spent, I don't know, 10-20 minutes on this so far, it's really starting to come together already. The trick is not to forget putting in flow improver. So there was about 2 drops of paint, a drop of flow improver, drop of water. So it's relatively thin, but the flow improver will push it into the shadows for you. It's good stuff. I use the Vallejo airbrush version if you're interested. So I think we can safely move on to the next stage now, which is a bit of dry brushing, just to pick out the raised areas. So this may be a mistake, but I'm using the remainder of the Rie Grey, Miskatonic Grey from the airbrush, and I'm using this makeup brush. Nice soft bristles. Test it on there. That's a bit heavy, I think, so far. And I'm just going to apply it to the neck, on the side of the head. And top of the ribs. And along the tail. afford to go a shade lighter. Okay, so I'm just swapping to a smaller makeup brush. I mean, you can get a set of 20 of these on eBay for something like £4, and they're just as good as any professional ones you can get out there. Do exactly the same job, nice soft bristles. So I'll just run across the top of the ribs there, side of the head. Again, anywhere that's facing up the way. Alright, let's wait and see what that dries like. Okay, just to finish this off, I've got a bit of ice yellow and I've added that to the Miskatonic grey on its own. So it's about 50-50. It's just to get a different tone really. So I'm just getting rid of the excess on a paper towel. Just make sure I get rid of most of it. Because this will be, might be quite a stark change, but we'll give it a go. And I'm just gonna pick those bits out. Just make the face stand out a bit more. Maybe that bone on the top of the ribs there. I don't do too much because it'll end up getting really dusty looking. I think that should do it. Feet that side, and remember this bit is facing up the way, so I'll pick that out as well. Okay, we're getting there, final stages. So to tie things in with the wings, I'm going to use Payne's Grey again. It's like one drop out. These things come in bottles that have got pipettes on them, and I'm just using one drop, and then I've put about 10 drops of water and a drop of flow improver in there as well. And I'm going to switch to a size 1 brush, and I'm just going to push the shadows a bit more. So it's really thin. Doesn't matter if you go on the highlighted area because it's not intense at all. So it's just a push the shadows where I want the shadows. So it's basically in the recess of the face, eye socket, under the horn, along the jaw, nostrils. And this may take one coat, may take 2. Let's keep going until you're happy. It should also cover up any areas where you've gone a bit awry with the dry brush too, and it'll bring back that shadow. So this is the, if you've seen one of my videos before, this is the state of Zen I get into now with either if I'm pushing colours around or just adding in a little bit of shadow, just zone out, don't think about anything, just the paint. It's great. So I'm going to carry on until I'm happy. I'll let you know how many coats I do. So only did about 2 passes with the ink, so I'm fairly happy with that. Only job now is to do these spines, and I'm going to use the same colours as the main body of the Thestral. So I'm going to start off with the Despair Green like we did before, with a little bit of the Necro Grey in it. So I'd say about 2 parts Despair Green, 1 part Necro Grey, and again thin it down. No flow improver this time, just water. And I'm just blocking it in. Remember, we've got the Payne's Grey ink either side of this spine, so don't have to worry about going onto the wing too much because we've got that area of shadow to play with. And I'm just gonna do the rest of this off camera because that's what I'm doing, is following lines. So moving on to the base for Luna, I'm going to be using PVA glue and some pigments, same as the Aragog base basically, because it's going to be in the forest setting. So we'll mix the PVA with the pigments and then apply it to the base. So you can see I've got a bit of water in there as well. This was the dark mud one. So we'll use this initially, and then we'll add more pigment then to do, you know, a variation in colour, different colour patches. So I recommend you use an old tired brush for this, but I'm going to be using a makeup brush from eBay just to slap it on. Try not to get any on the rim at the edge. So I tend to do the outside first and then work my way in. Because I wasn't happy with the angle of the Thestral and the rock, I've actually put some green stuff under the rock to angle it. So it'll take a bit of filling in, so I'm just waiting for that to dry as well. You'll probably see it when I spin it around the other side, you'll see the green stuff underneath. Let's see there. Just go over the top of that with the PVA. May have to fill it some more, but because there's some substance to this PVA and pigment mix, I might be able to fill it with just using that. So we'll come back when it's dry. Just wanted to add that I got some of the sienna stuff, like the lighter brown. Just dipped the brush in, a dry makeup brush, and just flicked it onto the base to get a bit of texture on there. It may melt into the wet PVA, but we'll see. We'll see. Okay, so I've added some foliage to the base, similar to the Unicorn tutorial and the Aragog tutorial. Whether the Aragog comes out before this or not, I'm not sure, but basically it's Army Painter Tufts, any colour, and the Meadow Flowers. You get yellow one side and white the other side. I've done a mixture of both, and then I've used just normal static grass and made my own tufts by dipping it in with tweezers, knocking off the excess, and then dabbing it into the glue. There's nothing else on there, so maybe a little bit of ivy here and there, but I'll try and find a link and put it in the description. So, last thing to do, well, second last thing to do is the rocky base. Now, it's been base coated with Vallejo's dark grey, and I'm keeping that dark grey in the palette, but I've added some light grey to it. And I'm just going to get the old makeup brush out again, and we'll dry brush this mixture on. So there's a bit of a mid grey now, as you see there. I've added a bit more light grey to it. Might as well use the same grey that was in the palette. Just means I've got to add more light grey to it to lighten it. Okay, so as you know, just draw the brush over the contours so it picks up the edges. And I'll just work my way around. And next highlight, I've added some white to that, well, off-white. So we're getting into the realms of a light grey now. You could use light grey on its own, but I'm wasting paint otherwise, so I've just added it to the last mix that we had. You can concentrate more on the top of the base rather than the sides, so just catch the edges on the sides. I don't want to do too great a job because it'll distract from the the Thestral paint job. So more white into the mix. Let's get rid of the excess again. You can add some washes over the top of it if you wanted to, you know, a bit of green here and there, or a bit of blue. I always like a bit of blue in grey, especially for rocks. But I'm just going to keep this plain and simple. A bit more white again, so white on its own, but because we've got a little bit of grey already in the brush, it'll just take it to a very, very light grey. And I'll just concentrate on the front of the rock there. You can always put a little tuft of grass on there if you wanted to break it up a bit, but I think I'm just going to leave it there. So I'll redo the base, edge of the base in black again. I think we're done. Okay, there we are. Another one finished, another one off the list. Really enjoyed this one, I hope you can tell. Great fun. And the only other thing I did towards the end was I used the dry brush again on, remember we did the spines of the wings? I used the same colours from the body on the spines, just dry brush and just go progressively lighter. One thing to know, the paint recipe for Luna is actually exactly the same colours. If you look back for the Luna Lion Hat version, exactly the same colours used there as well, including the skin. So that should help you out with that part as well. I didn't feel it was appropriate to do it again because, you know, it's already been covered. So yeah, that's it. I think I've covered everything off there. So I hope you enjoyed it. As always, get in touch in the comments below, and we'll see you in the next episode. Cheers.